You carry it around with you every single day. But have you ever really stopped to think about that tiny little chip inside your phone? I mean, it's pretty much the unsung hero of our mobile world. And believe me, it holds way more secrets than you'd think. So let's pull back the curtain on the surprising story of the SIM card. So here's our game plan. We're going to start super small, looking at the chip itself, and then we're going to zoom all the way out. We'll see how it hooks you up to the rest of the world, what your phone can and can't do without it, and where all this tech is headed. And then we'll get into the really big stuff, the huge privacy questions this all brings up. All right, first up, your phone's tiny brain. Let's get right into it and figure out what this little piece of plastic and silicon actually is and what it's doing in there. I mean, look at it. It seems so simple, right? But this little guy is the master key that unlocks your entire mobile identity. So what secrets are actually packed onto this thing? Let's find out. Okay, so SIM actually stands for Subscriber Identity Module. The best way to think of it is as a tiny, secure computer chip that holds your unique network ID. It's got this thing called an International Mobile Subscriber Identity, or IMSI. Basically, that's your secret login and password for the entire mobile network, connecting your personal phone number directly to your physical phone. And its history is pretty wild. The very first SIM was developed way back in 1991. The first batch was just 300 cards. And from that tiny start, we now have over 7 billion devices using them. And along the way, they just kept shrinking from the size of a credit card down to the micro SIM and finally to the nano SIM in 2012, which is basically all chip and almost no plastic. And get this for some perspective, because this is my favorite part. A SIM card has just 64 kilobytes of memory. You know what else had 64 kilobytes of processing power? The Apollo guidance computer that took us to the moon. All that power, and it can still store up to 250 of your contacts. It's kind of mind-blowing. So we know what it is. Now let's see how this tiny little chip actually connects you to a massive global network. How does it unlock the world? So when you make a call, it's like this incredible high-speed relay race. First, your voice becomes a digital signal. Your phone beams that signal to the nearest cell tower. Then, and this is the cool part, the tower turns it into pulses of light and shoots it through underground fiber optic cables to a mobile switching center. Think of that center as the network's traffic cop. It figures out where your friend is, routes the call to their nearest tower, and that tower beams the signal right to their phone, all in a split second. And this brings up a really common misconception. We call them wireless phones, right? But the truth is, our mobile network is built on this gigantic, hidden skeleton of physical, wired fiber optic cables, running under our streets and even across the ocean floors. It's not nearly as wireless as we think. Okay, so let's do a little thought experiment. What happens if you take that all-important key, the SIM card, out of the phone? What can a modern smartphone actually do when it's all by itself? Well, you might actually be surprised. A phone without a SIM is far from a paperweight. It can still make emergency calls, which is a super important safety feature. And if you've got Wi-Fi, it's basically business as usual for browsing the web, using apps like WhatsApp or Instagram. Even GPS navigation works if you've downloaded the maps ahead of time. And of course, the camera works just fine. But, and this is a pretty big but, the limitations are huge. The bottom line is, without a SIM, you lose the mobile part of your mobile phone. No regular phone calls, no classic SMS texts, no cellular data when you're out and about. And a lot of apps that need to verify you with a phone number, like Uber, for example, they just won't work. This all brings us to the future, which is already here, really. A future where the physical card itself is becoming obsolete. The SIM is evolving from a thing you can hold into pure software. So we've already watched the physical shrinking act play out. The next big jump is the eSIM. That's a tiny chip that's actually soldered right on your phone's circuit board. And the step after that, the iSIM, which is built directly into the phone's main processor. Pretty soon, there won't be any little slot to pop open at all. And honestly, the benefits are really clear. Instead of fumbling around with a tiny piece of plastic and a paperclip, you just scan a QR code and you're good to go. These new digital SIMs are tamper-proof. You can store multiple carrier profiles on them at once, which is awesome for traveling, and they free up all that precious space inside the phone for things we all want, like a bigger battery. And this leads us to our final and maybe the most important part of the story. All of this seamless digital convenience, it doesn't come for free. There are some profound trade-offs, especially when we start talking about our privacy. To really get this, we have to talk about something called KYC, which stands for Know Your Customer. These are actual regulations that force mobile carriers to verify who you are, your real identity, before they can give you a phone number. What this means is that your traditional SIM card is directly tied to your real name, your address. Your phone number basically becomes another form of digital ID. So what does that look like in the real world? Well, with a regular SIM, KYC links your real name to your phone. The cell towers are always tracking your location, and the carriers are logging your calls and texts. But in a no-SIM setup, where you're using internet-based phone services, also known as VoIP, the whole picture just flips. Your identity isn't automatically tied by law, cell towers aren't tracking you, and your calls aren't part of that standard phone network log. For people like journalists, activists, or really anyone who's serious about their privacy, it's a way to step off that mass surveillance grid. The difference is absolutely huge. So as this little physical SIM card that we all know fades into history and gets replaced by seamless, invisible software, we're left with a really critical question. We gain all of this incredible convenience, but what are we giving up in return when it comes to our privacy and our ability to be anonymous? That's the trade-off we're all going to have to think about.